Now, new damning WhatsApp messages appear to show Hunter Biden demanding $10 million from a Chinese energy venture, promising the Bidens are, quote, the best at appeasing their partners.
Brooke Singman is here with the exclusive reporting. Hey, Brooke.
Hey, good morning, guys. That's right. The House Oversight Committee is releasing these stunning 2017 WhatsApp messages allegedly sent by Hunter Biden to a Chinese energy company associate saying, quote, $10 million per annum budget to use to further the interest of the joint venture. This move to $5 million is completely new to me and is not acceptable, obviously. I can make $5 million salary at any law firm in America. If you think it's about money, it is not. The Bidens are the best I know at doing exactly what the chairman wants from this partnership. It's been revealed that the now missing billionaire chairman of the Chinese energy company was tied to an intelligence agency for the Chinese Communist Party. Now, the revelations come following the messages released last week that showed Hunter used his father to pressure a Chinese associate. That message came out of testimony from an IRS whistleblower who claimed there was political interference in the federal investigation into Hunter Biden. And that whistleblower also said federal prosecutors blocked any questioning about President Biden.
If this was any other person, they likely would have already served their sentence. There were certain investigative steps that we weren't allowed to take that could have led us to President Biden.
And you wanted to take them?
We needed to take them.
And you weren't allowed to take them?
That's correct.
New York Post columnist Miranda Devine says she hopes America has the whistleblowers back.
These allegations that the IRS whistleblowers brought forward that were exposed last week, they are too important. The evidence is too overwhelming to just be casually dismissed like that. Joe Biden is trying to show us that he doesn't care, he's not worried.
I also spoke exclusively with Republican Congressman Darrell Issa this week, who said the Biden administration can't keep its story straight. He says, quote, for months and months, both the president and on his behalf, his spokespeople have been saying the president did not have business communications with his son, Hunter Biden. It switched just a couple of days ago. It was switched to he was, quote, never in business with his son. Now, Fox News Digital also exposing the White House for omitting Hunter Biden from its visitor logs. We're learning he visited the White House over a dozen times in February of this year alone, but the logs no longer reveal any Biden family member visits for this year, 2023. Now, the White House has told Fox News Digital it's not releasing records of personal guests of the first and second families, despite it being done during the Obama administration when Biden was vice president. Carly, Todd.
All right, Brooke, thank you so much. There is also this. The New York Times is now confirming one of the IRS whistleblower claims, but it was buried in the 21st paragraph of a report that U.S. Attorney David Weiss was not calling the shots and things were being run from Washington. The paragraph reads, in mid-2022, Mr. Weiss reached out to top federal prosecutors in Washington to ask his office to pursue charges and was rebuffed. A similar request to prosecutors in the Central District of California was also rejected. A second former IRS official told House Republicans the same story. That episode was confirmed independently to the Times. The newspaper did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for comment, but the reporting is out, and they are confirming at least a small portion of what this IRS whistleblower is saying, which is that David Weiss was doing his job, trying to bring charges forward against Hunter Biden. For these charges would be for not paying his taxes in 2014 and 2015. So 2 years of not paying his taxes, which I guess he just ultimately wound up getting away with, and David Weiss was hitting roadblocks along the way. The other thing that this IRS whistleblower is saying is that Weiss wanted to be named special counsel, which would have given him more authority in this case, and was denied. Now, Merrick Garland is denying that ever happened, but if that's true, remember what Kevin McCarthy just said on Fox and Friends earlier this week. He said, if it comes true that the IRS whistleblower is saying, we're going to start impeachment inquiries on the attorney general.
That was a lovely summary. Unfortunately, if you're not watching our show and you are also reading the New York Times, you did not get that, because the New York Times buried this whole thing, just a paragraph on it, on paragraph 21. And that just underscores the issue that Republicans, I think, are facing going into the election. Yes, this is a tremendous potential scandal involving the President of the United States. But if the majority of the country doesn't know about it and is not being given this information through their news sources, then how much of a scandal is it really when people go to the ballot box? That's why it is incumbent upon both sides, and I know that's wishful thinking, both sides to really delve into this in Congress and figure out what is happening.
I I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Whistleblower in the Hunter Biden probe is speaking out publicly for the first time since revealing he was stopped from pursuing investigative leads into the Biden family.
If this was any other person, they likely would have already served their sentence. There were certain investigative steps that we weren't allowed to take that could have led us to President Biden.
And you wanted to take them.
We needed to take them.
And you weren't allowed to take them.
That's correct.
Missouri Congressman Mark Alford joins us now. Congressman, those are damning allegations, claims by that whistleblower. So now, what questions do you have? Do you want to have before people that are brought in front of you to try to get answers for the American people?
Todd and Carly, good morning. We need to know exactly what went on. You know, this all came about 3 years ago when Fox aired the Bobulinski interview, and it's all started to unravel after that. The yarns are being pulled on this sweater. It is totally unraveling for the Biden crime family. You know, this looks like it is tax fraud, not just tax evasion, but tax fraud. And we need to make it very clear to the American people that strippers and sex club memberships are not legitimate tax deductions. They're not business expenses. Hunter Biden took those as such. That is a crime. He is getting a sweetheart deal. We need to make sure that he is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
And then you have these WhatsApp messages, Congressman, where Hunter Biden is saying that the Biden family is the best at making the chairman of a Chinese energy firm happy and asking for $10 million. We don't know what family members he's referring to, but he certainly did use the word family in there. How do you feel about this?
Well, he's starting to sound like the Sopranos, isn't he? This Biden crime family is getting to look just like that, the Soprano family. You know, the big guy, which that term came out during the Bobulinski interview as well. The big guy is on the take, and he has compromised America. He is in the pockets of the Communist Chinese government. It is a danger to our national security, and the quicker we can get to the bottom of this, the better for the average American people, the better for the survival of our nation.
Congressman, does this all culminate with Merrick Garland and David Weiss, the special prosecutor, testifying before you and your colleagues on Capitol Hill to determine which one is lying? And if it's determined to be Merrick Garland, should he be impeached?
Definitely. Merrick Garland should be impeached. If the evidence leads that direction, we need to make sure we do it the proper way. I'm sure he's still upset he's not a Supreme Court justice. I'm not saying that has any play in his lack of really the tough prosecution that needs to happen in this place or the sweetheart deal that he gave Hunter Biden. But we've got to get to the bottom of this. We need to make sure that there's not a two-tier justice system of the United States of America that is a danger to our survival as a nation.
There's also this. Fox News Digital is reporting that Hunter Biden was omitted from White House visitor logs. And the White House is now saying, well, the White House doesn't have to include every single family member in these logs. But I guess critics would say, you know, it's interesting that Hunter Biden was omitted. Could the first family possibly be hiding how much he's there and why he would be there in the first place?
Look, that's okay if the family members there are doing just family business. But in this family business, in the Biden crime family business, it is not just family. It is not just coming to see dad. We know that President Biden denied to Peter Doocy and others on the campaign trail that he never talked to his son, Hunter Biden, about the family business deals that were going on, when in fact the evidence is coming out that it did. We need to have a clear presentation of these records. How many times did Hunter Biden go to the White House? What did he talk to his father about? Was it about his compromise with China, the payouts that they were getting?
Right. Yeah.
Would it have something to do with Ukraine?
Congressman, thank you so much for waking up with us. We appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Damning new WhatsApp messages appear to show Hunter Biden bragging his family is the best at making Chinese executives happy while demanding millions as a payout. I'm not kidding. The 2017 message reading, quote, $10 million per annual budget to annum budget to you. There's some spelling typos in this. Not in us, but in his WhatsApp message to use to further the interests of the joint venture. The Bidens are the best to know at doing exactly what the chairman wants from this partnership. Is this unbelievable? Here with more is Shapley's attorney and Empower Oversight president, Tristan Levitt. Tristan, you represent Gary Shapley, one of the whistleblowers that have come forward. And these WhatsApp messages are part of the area in which the IRS couldn't go. They were told, you're not going to go into these international business dealings, right?
Well, to some extent, they looked a lot at the international business dealings, but those messages deal with, obviously these specific deals with the Chinese companies, and these are part of the same messages where Hunter Biden said, "I'm sitting here next to my dad," and the investor can't ask about the dad, can't ask about the big guy. They're blocked from subpoenas or search warrants at the Biden residence in Delaware. So those are the further angles that were all blocked off by prosecutors in Delaware.
Why?
That's a good question. Gary doesn't pretend to know the answer. Some of it, again, after a few months of that, it was clear to him that this is being treated differently. He tried to write that off. He tried to say, well, look, people have differences of opinion all the time. But after 2 full years, and especially, culminating in this red line meeting he's talked about, he said, I don't know what their motivations are, but it's clear that this has been, this is wrong, and people need to know about it.
And when he came out and was obviously a dissenter and a whistleblower, has he been punished? Has it been retribution?
Yeah, he's been treated very differently. So we submitted, we haven't focused a lot on that because the key thing is the information that he's brought forward. But, there have been definite repercussions at his agency, which continue to this day. And so we're hopeful to see remedial action there. But Gary's point all along has been, this isn't about me. This is about the information there. And of course, Attorney General Merrick Garland has tried to make it about, Gary Shapley versus the Attorney General.
So David Weiss, in a letter back to Jim Jordan, said, I am the decision maker. But according to Gary Shapley and other whistleblowers, he wasn't the decision maker. And he said almost as much in front of how many people?
So there were 6 witnesses there. So 2 from the FBI, 2 from the IRS, and then 2 from the U.S. Attorney's Office for Delaware. And we've, again, that information was documented contemporaneously by Gary. His supervisor agreed in email. And so that's been what the focus has been for the past few days. But now the New York Times says that they've independently confirmed that California also, refused to bring charges. This takes it away from Gary. It's clear now. Others are figuring out that what Gary's brought forward is the beginning of a further investigation, but it's about Weiss versus Garland and the substance that's there because Weiss was clearly blocked.
So let's get this straight. One of the allegations by Gary Shapley is that Weiss wanted to bring this to D.C., and Matt Graves said, no, you're not going to bring it here because the violations happen in D.C. They said, I want to bring it to Los Angeles, and they said, you can't bring it here. Merrick Garland calls a press conference and says, I don't know what you're talking about. I told him he has free reign to do what he wants. I don't know who would stop him. Well, the New York Times found out last night that the L.A. story is true. He was stopped from bringing those charges. Do you believe that Merrick Garland was behind stopping him in both those areas? Do you think that's new news to him?
I think it's new information. I don't think he was behind that. I think you just have 2 other, Senate, U.S. attorneys who were nominated by the president, who are confirmed by the Senate, and they have their own authority to do what they like. And U.S. Attorney David Weiss doesn't have the authority to bring charges in their district without their permission. So whether Garland was in the dark or whether he is just playing, word games with some sort of nuance, saying, well, he didn't come to me personally, he didn't do this or that, I don't know. But clearly he's wrong on some of these facts.
So I wanted to say that the witnesses that have come forward have been confirmed that were in the room. Baltimore FBI agent, Special Agent Tom Sobozinski, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Rashia Holly, Special Agent in Charge Darrell Walden, IRS Special Agent in Charge Gary Shapley, obviously. So these guys are sitting there and they hear David Weiss say, I'm not the ultimate authority on this. He's Trump appointed. Everyone keeps saying Trump appointed. Why won't David Weiss stick up for himself and says, I'm being stopped here?
That's the question of the year, Brian. I don't know, but ultimately he has to answer these questions about why he told one group of individuals one thing and then told Congress a different thing. Again, I don't know if it's technicalities. His letter to Jim Jordan said, I have the authority consistent with department regulations and prosecutorial standards. And so if he's hiding behind those words, to, if that's where the fact lies, that under department regulations, he didn't have the authority. They're playing word games, and it's too cute by half.
So, Tristan, what has Congress told you is the next step? Obviously, you'll testify. Your client is doing an interview with Bret tonight. It's going to be great. He's talked to other people. What is next? To get Gary in front of oversight and to get David Weiss there?
Yes, the key thing, obviously our client will testify where he needs to, but the key thing is that this can't rely on his shoulders. He doesn't know what the interactions were between Weiss and Main Justice. Weiss needs to come and explain this. So if it gets down to the middle of July and Gary's still the only one bringing this forward, that will be a really significant disservice to these whistleblowers. They've given the important starting information. Now it's up to Congress to interview the other witnesses and advance the investigation.
You think it's important for the country to know if the Biden family was involved in Hunter Biden's dealings?
I could, in terms of the knowledge that Gary has, he's brought forward these representative examples, and that information that I'm privy to, right, is limited to what the investigators had. But they weren't able to follow up on the leads on the laptop. They don't even know that they got all of the full information from the laptop because prosecutors blocked them from getting it, even though they had independently confirmed that it was Hunter Biden's.
Unbelievable. It's a protection racket. Tristan, thanks so much. You're a great spokesperson for your client. Tristan Levitt, appreciate it. Make sure you watch Bret Baier's interview tonight. Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
They were blocked from subpoenas or search warrants at the Biden residence in Delaware. But now the New York Times says that they've independently confirmed that California also, refused to bring charges. This takes it away from Gary. It's clear now. Others are figuring out that what Gary's brought forward is the beginning of a further investigation, but it's about Weiss versus Garland and the substance that's there because Weiss was clearly blocked.
The New York Times says it must be true. That lawyer for the whistleblower, Gary Shapley, in the Hunter Biden case, weighing in on allegations the prosecutor was blocked from pursuing charges in California or anywhere else outside Delaware. They said D.C., and they said California rejected the case. Now the New York Times found out it was in fact true in Los Angeles. It comes as a new damning WhatsApp message appears to show Hunter Biden bragging his family is the best at making Chinese executives happy while demanding millions as a payout. This is not a joke. Outkick founder Clay Travis on the revelations. Clay, pretty amazing how this story is gaining steam.
Yeah, I think Biden family is finally being exposed for what they are. Thanks for having me, Brian. The Bidens are the most corrupt president and family to ever be in the White House in any of our lives. And I think these revelations are going to keep Joe Biden from being the nominee in 2024. But right now, the next step, Brian, people say, okay, what should happen next? This judge in Delaware who is going to review the plea agreement, she was appointed by Donald Trump in 2018. She must 100% under the law reject this plea agreement because there was clear obstruction. Evidence of that obstruction is becoming more and more glaring every day in this Hunter Biden investigation. So there is no way that she can sign off on this plea agreement. Why is that significant, people might say? Well, first of all, legally, I believe she is bound to refuse to sign off on this plea agreement. That would then throw this investigation, back into the unsettled realm, which I believe would require Merrick Garland to officially recuse himself, appoint a special counsel, and then have a full-fledged investigation that would exist at the same time as what should be impeachment proceedings beginning against both Merrick Garland and Joe Biden over what I believe is very serious allegations and evidence.
Clay, I don't think a special counsel, though.
Clear complicity.
Forget a special counsel. Just let the committees handle it because special counsel goes into an abyss. Next thing you know, a year goes by and they'll keep saying there's an investigation, we can't comment. I think that Comer's got to keep it in front of him.
This shouldn't take very long at this point, Brian. There could have been, you saw how fast they moved with the special counsel against Trump. If a truly impartial special counsel who was able to bring charges was put in charge here, I think this thing could be resolved in a couple of months.
Unless they want to slow it down. Now the big news. Two people with more money than us, Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, could be actually fighting. There's now pictures of both men training. Here's Elon Musk pretending to put an arm lock on Lex Friedman. Your reaction, do you think this thing is going to happen?
It would be I can't believe this is real, but this would be the biggest fight in the history of combat sports. The amount of attention, the amount of people who would watch. I saw where Elon Musk's mom has come out and said she does not like the idea. But I feel like both of these guys, particularly Elon Musk, know how to draw attention. And it feels to me like it really might happen. If it does, there's no telling how much could be made.
The undercard, you and Buck Sexton. We'll see how that goes. Clay, thanks so much. And we'll listen to your show today.
I want to see Dana and Ainsley. That would be a hell of an undercard.
Yeah, we'll see if I can sign her. Don't forget to check out Outkick.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
John Levine is New York Post political reporter. I want to show you this. This is one of the WhatsApp messages that came out about the Chinese associate. It says, "I'm tired of this, Kevin. I can make $5 million in salary from any law firm in America. If you think it's about money, it's not. The Bidens are the best at doing exactly what the chairman wants from this partnership. Please, let's not quibble over peanuts."
It's getting smoky in here. You can feel the smoke rising. Look, that's a very disturbing email. I mean, certainly the money involved tracks with what we know Hunter Biden received from and his family from foreign countries. The House Oversight Committee revealed $10 million into many, many different LLCs. But the most disturbing thing about what you just read, I think, is the Bidens are the best at doing what the chairman wants. So what does the chairman want? And what Bidens, it's a plural, are we talking about here? And that individual is a man named Ye Jianming. He's a Chinese energy executive, once a very big tycoon in that country. But he's been sitting in a Chinese jail cell since 2018, and no one knows what's happened to him.
Do you know why he was? What were the said
corruption.
reasons?
Corruption. But the fact of the matter is, the first thing I was thinking of today is, what information does this man have that the Chinese can now extract on Hunter and potentially Joe Biden? I don't know.
IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley says that Hunter Biden was writing off as business expenses, listen to this, prostitutes, travel for prostitutes, sex club memberships, and hotel rooms for drug dealers. Couple misdemeanors, and it appears he's going to get pretrial diversion. Would an average Joe get that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think if you tried to write off prostitutes and drugs, you'd probably get a stiffer sentence. And I think even Shapley has said, if you're a small business owner, if you're any other American, there's no way you'd get away with crimes like that.
Let's listen to a little bit more of Gary Shapley. This is call for number 5 about the plea deal.
There's still, outstanding tax due and owing above that $620,000 that, because of this deal, they'll never recoup. The most substantive felony charges were left off the table.
Which would have been what?
Which would have been evasion for 14, false return for 18 and 2019.
The evasion thesis that in 14, as I learn a little bit more about this, it's going back to 2014. The vice president was there, and yet still we also have the vice president saying that he did not talk to his son, or have they changed that language a little bit?
Well, right. It's very interesting. Forever, you'll recall, they always said Joe Biden's never had any involvement in his son's overseas business dealings. But now, if you listen to the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, and some others, it's starting to be like, well, I was never in business with my son. But that's different than I've never had any involvement.
Or I've never talked to him.
I've never talked to him. So the goalposts are slowly changing, and I think it's very important for listeners and for people following the story to keep track of how the language of their response changes over time.
And we just heard David Spun talking about it. AG Merrick Garland is essentially saying that the U.S. Attorney, David Weiss, had full discretion to prosecute however he wants. Whistleblower Gary Shapley says, no, that's not the case. I documented it. He told me it's not my call. Somebody's lying here.
Someone is lying here. And I'll add, someone is committing a crime, because it's a crime to lie in a federal whistleblower complaint. And Merrick Garland made many of his claims about Weiss's prosecutorial freedom while he was under oath. So someone not only lied, but someone committed a crime. And I think what you need to do is they have to come under oath, both of them, Shapley and Weiss and Garland, and they have to sort of put their cards on the table and say what they know. And what I'll say is there's probably a paper trail. If David Weiss tried to be elevated to special counsel, if he tried to bring charges in other jurisdictions, my hunch is that there would have been some official paper generated in that pursuit. Where is that paper?
Yeah, you'll find
so
it.
We need to see the receipts here.
Meantime, I want to show you this in the New York Times. So first of all, call for number 2. This is the New York Times, basically. Look at this web scroll here. So you get this article and you get all the way down to page 21 where you find the whistleblower claims. And then look at this headline from the New York Times today. Hunter Biden isn't hiding. Even some Democrats are uncomfortable that his public appearances come across as a message of defiance by the president, who is determined to show that he stands by his son. But this also ensures, John, that the Democrats are going to have to continue to keep talking about this. They thought last week, plea deal done, case closed, nothing more to see here. And it seems to me that the story has only grown by leaps and bounds since then.
Even in the best case scenario of everything we've seen so far, Hunter Biden is a self-admitted tax criminal. And you see him popping up at state dinners. You see him at Camp David. You see this very public embrace by the White House. And there are real questions about whether the president of the United States should be publicly associating with such a person, even if it is his son.
Well, he's going to. It is his son, and they will stick with that. And you know, I think it's a difficult position for the press secretary to be in as well, because that relationship is super tight. Of course, it should be. So what is she supposed to do? We'll be watching, indeed, and we'll be reading all of your work in the New York Post. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
The Department of Justice in front and center in all of this. And people are starting to ask questions. Some op-eds writing the Attorney General versus whistleblowers again. Throw Hunter Biden's plea deal in the trash. The IRS whistleblowers say justice sabotaged the investigation. So how can the agreement stand? You can bet Republicans are going hard for answers. Attorney General Merrick Garland is set to testify before the House Judiciary Committee in September. Jason Rance, Seattle Talk Radio host, joins me now. The questions, are you kidding me? I mean, not only do we have a million questions for Hunter, but there should be even a million more for the president, who has maintained that he had nothing to do with his Burisma dealings, with his overseas dealings, with collecting millions of dollars due to his dealings. But yet now there's actual text messages on WhatsApp from 2017 to Harvest Fund Manager CEO Henry Zhou, showing that Hunter allegedly was with his dad to pressure Zhou to satisfy a pledge. I mean, that calls for an investigation of the president himself, does it not?
It absolutely does. And it also just doesn't make sense, this language coming from the White House. On the one hand, we're being told that Joe Biden is a terrific father. He has a close relationship with his son. He just wants what's best for him. But also he's saying, oh, we don't really have any substantive conversations or any conversations at all about his business dealings. I just don't buy that. It doesn't make any sense. And when you look at these whistleblower emails and text messages that we're now getting, they are damning. They're showing that the claims that the whistleblower made were never actually denied at the time that he was making them. They were not allowed to review Hunter's laptop. They weren't allowed to search the Delaware guest house where they believed some records were stored. And maybe there was nothing there. Maybe if they did the full investigation the way that they were supposed to, they would not find anything. But when you're telling me that they're being blocked from looking, that's usually a red flag. You know, the saying of where there's smoke, there's fire. This is an inferno. It kind of feels like it's pretty obvious that they are covering something up. And I think we need to, the American people need to demand that we get answers. And the media at large, it can't just be Fox News, have to step up and make these demands.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the whistleblower testimony disclosed last week alleges that basically the Justice Department manipulated the investigation into Hunter Biden. And what do you think the reason there was? Obviously, to spare him from more serious charges than the ones which he has now pleaded guilty to. In other words, he got off easy, and the Justice Department helped him. And the claims contradict Attorney General Merrick Garland's promise to Congress. Remember, he promised to Congress that there would not be, quote, interference of any political or improper kind in the investigation. So does he get impeached? He lied to Congress, did he not?
We have to find out if he actually lied to Congress. It certainly sounds like he did. And we're starting to see a pattern here, right? we have whistleblowers coming forward constantly, claiming that what Merrick Garland and what this administration has been claiming is just not true. He lied about whether or not they were going to prosecute the protesters who were threatening conservative Supreme Court justices.
Right.
They lied about how they were labeling parents showing up to school board meetings basically as domestic terrorists. Like, these
I
are
loved that one.
a series of events that show he tells us something and the truth is quite the opposite. And we have enough of a pattern to suggest that we need to move forward and
I guess I'm a terrorist. I've been called so many names in the book, but I've never been called a terrorist until that one. Republicans, yeah, exactly. Just added onto the list. Republicans are demanding, just to switch gears for a moment here, any and all information related to COVID origins. We would like answers on that as well. The push reignited after a redacted 9-page report showing concerns over the handling of viruses inside that Wuhan lab in question. Top senators say that report was just the tip of the iceberg and want all the information. Quote, this half-baked effort falls woefully short of the statutory requirements and undermines congressional intent. Now, the House side also making moves. There's a hearing now set for July 11th to talk to the authors of a specific scientific paper that struck down the lab leak theory back in February of 2020. The chair of the select subcommittee on COVID issuing his first subpoena for messages between those authors and COVID's top doctor, Anthony Fauci. Watch.
He said that Dr. Fauci prompted the writing of proximal origins, and he also said that his job was to focus on disproving the lab leak theory. You know, what is going on with that? Why should that be?
Okay, I want to talk about this letter. Okay, 9 pages. It's really 5 pages, and then there was a title page, and obviously you cannot crack down the origins of COVID in 5 pages. I mean, come on. Millions of people died, and you're going to tell me that 5 pages is sufficient? So what are they not telling us, and what are they hiding? Because any idiot will see right through this and tell you 5 pages certainly is not actual full disclosure, and the American public deserve more.
If they wanted us to know the full story, they would give us the full story, and
Right.
they're clearly choosing not to. And I think it plays into maybe some pro-China positions that some Democrats have. I would ask Democrats why they're the ones not standing up and demanding some answers. I don't believe that the Democrat Party, every single Democrat in Congress, is siding with China. So why is it that we are trying to carry their water? Why is it that we're doing PR for them? Why is it that we can't figure out where this came from? Because obviously the implications are incredible. There's going to be at some point another pandemic, right? And we have to figure out what we can legitimately learn from what just occurred. And if we can't even get to the bottom of where this virus came from, all we're going to do is repeat the mistakes that we made this last time in the future.
And it's not just the GOP demanding, the origin of COVID. Democrats have too, but a bill passed, and that deadline has then expired. So what are we waiting for? I mean, 2020 is when COVID started, and we're entering 2024 next year. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no explanation. There's no excuse. Jason Rantz, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.
It is deeply concerning and disheartening to witness instances where individuals, especially those closely associated with prominent figures, exploit their connections for personal gain. The case of a president's son using his father's name for a bribery scheme is a stark example of corruption and the abuse of power. It is a fundamental principle of justice and fairness that no one should be above the law, regardless of their family name or position. The actions of the president's son not only reflect poorly on his own character, but also raise questions about the ethical standards and integrity of the entire family. This type of behavior undermines public trust in our political institutions and reinforces the perception that those in power are more interested in personal enrichment than serving the interests of the American people. Moreover, such actions have far-reaching consequences for our democracy. When individuals exploit their family connections for personal gain, it creates an environment of favoritism where the powerful and influential can manipulate the system to their advantage. This erodes the belief that hard work and merit are the keys to success, fostering a sense of disillusionment and frustration among hardworking citizens who strive for a fair and equal society. As conservatives, we value individual liberty, limited government intervention, and the rule of law. We expect our leaders and their families to uphold these values and act as role models for the nation. The abuse of power and the use of a family name for personal gain not only betray conservative principles but also undermine the very foundations of our democratic society. It is crucial that such incidents are thoroughly investigated, and if found guilty, those responsible should face appropriate legal consequences. Upholding the rule of law and holding individuals accountable, regardless of their familial connections, is vital to preserving the integrity and trust in our political system. In conclusion, the use of a president's name for a bribery scheme by his own son is a deeply troubling situation. It highlights the need for a strong commitment to ethical standards and the rule of law, ensuring that no one is above accountability. As conservatives, we must remain vigilant and demand integrity from our leaders and their families to uphold the principles on which our great nation was founded. Thanks for watching. Until next time.